Hello, and welcome to a different format of video that I'm going to try. This is something that I would like to call My Metal Opinion. It's just an opportunity for me to discuss different topics that come to mind or relevant subjects that come up in the news and media in the metal world that I feel are worthy enough of a video discussion. Today's discussion is going to be about something that I've touched on a couple times in the past, but I want to kind of fully divulge into this just to kind of get this out there in a more succinct format and something that's a little easier to digest for you folk to watch and discuss in the comments below. So today's discussion is about a topic that is very simply put, 8-string guitars. Just specifically 8-string guitars, because I think there's a lot of back and forth on them with the metal community and the guitar communities ever since they were ever made or used in any kind of major metal album. I think Meshuggah were some of the first people to actually use those. Ever since then, it's become quite a staple of djent, progressive metal, and modern metal. To break it down, I think there's a lot of people that don't like change. They are used to playing a 6-string guitar, and they're probably a bit of the older crowd, and they see these newfangled 7-string and 8-string guitar players coming around, chugging on some low drop E, and they just immediately think, oh, you have no skill, which is so far from the truth, and I think both I and you know this. I think it's quite a closed-minded tactic to feel superior when a lot of people do that. And so if you're one of those people like myself that plays extended range guitars, don't feel bad if anybody says this to you on any kind of content you may post or just people in real life seeing you play 8-string guitars. They're just old and they don't like change, and that's most likely why they're kind of lashing out at you. They see this scary new thing and it scares them, and they just don't want anything to do with it. So the first instinct they have is to tear it down somehow so they can feel a little bit better about themselves. Now, obviously, this isn't every case. There are still a lot of people out there that don't act this way, but still kind of don't like the sound of a very low-tuned guitar, and that's fine. Everybody has their preferences, but it is still kind of a topic that I've noticed in the guitar community especially, this still kind of goes back and forth. I think as the years have went on, definitely more people have accepted it, and there's a lot of cool new stuff coming out with instruments like 8-string guitars, so I think it's slowly starting to become more and more accepted, and I think in a handful of more years it's going to be even more accepted until just virtually nobody actually has anything bad to say about them, because who knows, maybe at that point it's going to be 10-string guitars and all of us 8-string guitar players are going to be the ones saying, oh, that just doesn't sound good, it doesn't take skill, back in my day we played 8-string guitars, why do you need 2 extra strings? Now, I am of the opinion that 8 strings are fucking awesome. I love them. I don't use them primarily in my music, but I do have one that I do use, and I find it quite fun. It is not something that I don't do because I own one. I've got this Legator, I've seen so many ways people pronounce this company, but I use an 8-string guitar in some music, in my metal covers, and all sorts of things. So I'm one of those people that have accepted their coolness, and I do think exactly that. They're cool. It doesn't have to all be djenty 000 chugs. There's bands like Periphery and Haken and Animals as Leaders that are doing some really crazy things with 8-string guitars, and you can't argue that it's not impressive. It's not just chugging on 0011 0011. There's some really crazy stuff going on out there. I think, just like with most things, if you don't have anything nice to say to those who play extended range guitars, just don't say anything anyway. Let your own insecurities be your own insecurities. You don't need to lash out at people just to let everybody know that you're insecure about your own guitar playing and whatnot. And you know what? They don't want to hear it either, because there are a lot of up-and-coming guitar players that look at people like Tosin Abasi from Animals as Leaders and say, man, I really want to do that. I want to do something cool. That's what I want to do. And then they'll have some old people stuck in their ways that will harp down on them and say, hey, it's not cool. You don't have any skill if you play an 8-string. And I think that stops a lot of people from doing so. And that's a problem in my mind, and it's a little bit fucked up. So if you're one of those people, fuck off. I honestly think that 8-string guitars have opened up quite a new world for guitar, where a lot of things got stale for a really, really long time, because everybody was doing the whole Van Halen thing, or the Metallica thing, or the Eric Clapton thing, whatever, Slash thing. It all started to get very stale. There needed to be some kind of progression, some kind of new thing to promote innovation and create new sounds that we've never heard before to keep the instrument alive. And honestly, I think if it weren't for the invention of those extended range guitars like 7 strings and 8 strings, not counting the early 7-string that Satriani used, or was it Satriani? No, Steve Vai. I'm not counting that one because that had an extra high string. I'm talking about the lower tuned extended range guitars. If it weren't for those being invented, I think a lot of the guitar players in the world would have stagnated, and I don't think music would have progressed to an actual cool place. I know that when I found out about extended range guitars, I immediately wanted to join that club. I had wanted a 7-string for the longest time, and I only had played 6 strings for a while up until a couple of years ago when my amazing partner decided she was going to get me a gift for graduating college with that useful piece of paper that has not done anything for me in life since I graduated, but that's for another discussion. She got me this. It's a John Petrucci Majesty 7-string guitar. I play the hell out of this thing. It is my workhorse. It is my main guitar for recording anything, and I love the thing to death. And shortly after that is when I got my first 8-string. I had traded a Marshall valve state amplifier that I had to a local guy who had the Legator 8-string, and it has inspired me to do so many different things with my music and with guitar, because for a long time, like I said, things got very stale and I felt like I needed something new. I had already ventured into the wild world of progressive music, odd time signatures, using the modes, all sorts of crazy things, but there was just something there that still needed to change, and 7 strings and 8 strings brought that to the table. I personally think that 7-string is kind of my main home. That's where I'll centralize with. I think 7-string feels like center for me, but I'll still venture into 8-string guitar territory to write some stuff, because sometimes you just want to get that 8-string sound. Sometimes you want to tune to drop E and get that real low, satisfying wow. It's a similar feeling to when you're sitting in front of an amp and you just chug, 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 chug. It's that same feeling in a different aspect, because it's just so low and it makes you feel powerful, and it makes you inspired. At least for me, it inspires me to do a lot more things with my music that I had never done before, and venture into new uncomfortable territory to kind of grow my skills as a musician even further. I think 8 strings challenged a lot of people. I think they created a new challenging aspect to playing guitar and to be considered a good guitar player, and it's caused people to have to innovate and do crazy things, like specifically with Tosin Abasi of Animals as Leaders. He does some crazy things with those guitars, and I got the chance to see them back a handful of weeks ago in Detroit on the Dream Sonic Tour with Dream Theater, Devin Townsend, and Animals as Leaders, and it was an amazing show. Seeing him do his style of guitar was amazing, and that's not something I ever would have thought to do on guitar, but now I think we can all agree right now, like, the polyphia style of guitar playing is the top thing, and that finger style, the very percussive, articulate, almost clean sounding stuff that like Tosin does in Animals as Leaders, next to their, djenty side with the clean, like, finger pick, thump, slap style thing that he does, it's created a whole new craze for learning guitar, and I think that is an amazing thing, because people are going to look at guitar players like Tosin and Tim Henson and decide to pick up guitar for the first time because they want to do the same thing. We all have our own spaces in time where we get inspired to play an instrument. I remember listening to a lot of Megadeth back in the day and wanting to be able to play those things to satisfy my obsession with metal music and to basically show off to my dad and make him proud of me because I learned a Megadeth riff. Then Dream Theater came along in my life and it was all over from there. I knew guitar was something that was going to be a part of my life forever. The same case applies to folks growing up with Animals as Leaders and Polyphia. They're going to see those players and they're going to be like, you know what? This is really cool. Guitar is an amazing instrument. It can do all these crazy things, and I want that to be a part of my life. And to me, I think that is a really cool thing because it keeps the instrument alive, and it's just a really cool thing to see. Now, some people have the misconception that everybody who plays an 8-string does the same thing, the same 0-0, down-tuned, wow, chug, bullshit, and they all sound the same and yada, 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 which is complete bullshit to me. It is just absolute dog shit because that has been the case for everybody ever in anything. There are always popular, trendy things that everybody wants to be able to do themselves. Now it's, djenty stuff, it's progressive stuff, it's the clean sounding Polyphia stuff. Earlier before that, it was the metalcore stuff, playing it, all the 7, 8, 5, 7, 8, like 7, 8, 9, all the typical E minor metalcore guitar riffs. It was the same for every band in the 20-aughts that came out. It was the trendy thing to do. Everybody liked the sound and everybody did it. Before that, it was, E minor chug chugs for things like Metallica, people who want to sound like Metallica, or drop D when that was a big thing. Everybody started playing in drop D because, oh look, it's a lot easier to play these power chords. I can add extensions onto these chords and make them sound cool, and it's just an easier way to play guitar and make it sound heavy. Everybody was doing it. So it's no different than any of those times. So the people who kind of gripe on everybody for sounding the same, it's the same old story, the same old thing that everybody has said forever because they're arrogant or ignorant or just plain out losers. I personally have been playing guitar since I was about 12 or 13. I'm 26 now, so I've been playing for quite some time. Obviously, I'm not a spectacular guitar player like a John Petrucci or anything, but I'm hoping to get there one day. But I've developed a decent amount of skills. But playing extended range guitars have pushed me to improve and figure out new ways to write music that have inspired me, like I've said earlier, to just try new things and do something different. And it's created some really cool stuff. And 8-string guitars have, ingrained themselves into me as a guitar player and the style of music that I enjoy. I'm still working on skills as a guitar player and technical techniques, as redundant as that sounds. Sweep picking, legato, alternate picking, all of that, tapping, those are skills that I've worked on forever. But now with 8-string being a part of my life, it's like I gotta learn how to do 8-string stuff because it is a very different take on how you play the guitar. It's a different approach. You have to approach it very differently from normal guitar because chords don't necessarily work that well down low, and it's just a little more difficult to play. You got to find things that sound cool and change it up. It's a challenging new thing, and that's a good thing. So I personally love them. All in all, this is simply just to say, when it comes to 8-string guitars, my metal opinion is that they're fucking awesome. And if you've never played one, at least give it a shot. Maybe it's not for you, and that's fine, but maybe it is. And it might just change your way of playing guitar forever. Thank you guys for listening, and subscribe.